Draining people. Draining people. How do we navigate the people in our world that leave us feeling drained? I think we can all agree that we've experienced someone in our life at some point, maybe you're experiencing it currently, where you just feel drained. Maybe it's more than one person. They say things to you that rub you the wrong way. Maybe they talk to you in a belittling or condescending way. Maybe they talk with passive aggressive. Maybe they will try to make a point to you, but then later on they'll say, oh, I was just joking. But their agenda was really for you to know what they had to say. Why do we keep some of these people in our lives? And why do we let some people go? Welcome. I'm Tracy Hensel. I'm a certified professional coach, owner of Hensel Coaching and Consulting. I help people just like you navigate relationships. I help people like you identify roadblocks or sticking points that hold you back from achieving your goals, whatever those goals may be. Well, when I have a client come to me or in a coaching session bring up a difficult relationship that they have with someone who's either negative or does talk to them in a way that doesn't make them feel very good, they often wonder, how do I establish healthy boundaries with this person, and do I keep them in my life or do I let them go? Do I have them ride my bus? Do they have a seat on there or not? And I have a video where I talk about how we are in control of who's on our bus. If you're the driver in the driver's seat of your bus and you put people on your bus, you will dictate who they are and where they sit. But not every single person in our life that is draining or we find to be toxic or negative do we remove or let them off our bus. And there's many reasons why that is. If we let certain people go from our life, it could affect others. If it's a family member and you remove yourself or you remove them from your life, really you would be removing yourself. It could affect your spouse, it could affect your children, your siblings, or other people. And also understand that other people may not see them from the same lens that you do. And that's why we have to be careful who we share, how we feel about others, who we share that with. Because not everyone is going to be able to relate. And again, because that's based off of us. Why do we get triggered? Why do our buttons get pushed, right? Why do certain people get under our skin? It's really hard to decide who we keep and who we let go. And again, you have to consider how many people could be affected by this change. That doesn't mean that you don't establish healthy boundaries with them. And I talk all the time about healthy boundaries. I have plenty of videos on my YouTube channel where I talk about toxic people, negative people, navigating difficult relationships. I have a whole library of videos like that. So I'm just here again sharing the same stuff that I have over and over because it's such a big topic. In fact, last week I had a couple of direct messages where people reached out to me. One had shared with me, how do I handle my in-laws that always speak to my husband and me as if we're 12-year-olds? And they will even tell us that we're being too picky or too fussy, or we're being a know-it-all when we tell them that we've got it. Okay, they're belittling and they're talking to you in a condescending way. There's a lot of different ways to navigate this, and there's no right answer because every situation is going to be different. But I want to give you a couple of analogies so that you can process why at times we do choose to keep people in our life because we see that the pros outweigh the cons. Let's just say you have someone who services you. Let's say it's a hairstylist, and you don't really enjoy your visits to the hair salon because your hairstylist will ask you questions, but then she never lets you get a word in edgewise. She will ask you about you, your kids, and every time you go to share, she just chimes in, interrupts you, and shares about herself. Or maybe she will tell you how lucky you are because maybe you don't work outside the home and she does. And maybe you're thin and she's not. And she'll tell you how easy you have it and how lucky you are and how unlucky she is. Okay, these people can be very draining. We all have experienced this type of person. You're lucky, I'm unlucky. But that hairstylist, you may have been with her for years and you get a pretty good rate to get your hair done. Maybe she's never increased what she charges you. She's also in a good location, proximity-wise to where you live, and maybe she's not in a large salon or a bougie salon where you feel like you need to be all put together. And she does a really good job. So while she may get under your skin and she's not a family member, meaning if you left her and you went to a new hairstylist, it wouldn't affect anyone else. You may choose to stay and suck it up because you find so many positives. The price is right. Isn't that a show? I think so, a game show. The price is right. The location fits your needs. She does a good job. And you like the atmosphere. So you decide, I'm just going to stick with her and I'm just going to let what she says go in one ear and out the other. And it's important to learn how to not be so penetrated and triggered by that. Let's say you live in a neighborhood and you have a neighbor that you walk with, and it's the same scenario. You'll go on your hour-long walk 4 or 5 days per week. You meet at the same time out in the street in front of your homes, and you walk, and all you hear about is how she has it so hard and you have it so good. Or she'll ask you something, but then she'll chime in all about her. Where are you guys going for spring break? And then as soon as you start to tell her, she chimes in with where she's going. Maybe if she asks you about your kids, she chimes in about hers. It's all about her. There's no tossing that ball back and forth. So make sure you watch my video where I talk about qualities of a good friend. And I talk about how we toss that ball back and forth, right? There needs to be this common ground with our conversation. Now it's very different. Once again, if someone's going through something and they really need you and they need to lean on you, that's one thing. But when people do it all the time, it can be draining. So why do you keep your walking partner, neighbor in your life? Well, it may be easier to do that because after all, you do have someone to hold you accountable. You may not get out there and get that walk in if you didn't have someone to do it with. So while at the end of your hour-long walk, you are drained, you find the pros outweigh the cons. And really no one else, maybe, perhaps, would be affected if you stepped away from that relationship. We have to decide, why are we so triggered and bothered? And if we want to keep people in our life that do drain us, that do get under our skin, that do trigger us, that do seem to be self-centered, that do talk to us in a belittling, condescending way or tell us how lucky we are and how unlucky they are, we have our reasons to keep them around. But I think the most important thing is you need to get away from being drained all the time. So that's where you have to work on yourself, because you can't work on anyone else. It's not to say that you can't talk to the person and express your concerns, but always recognize you don't know how they're going to react or respond to that, and it could compromise the relationship. So really think it through. Never make a long-term decision on a short-term emotion. When it comes to family members, again, it's a matter of, do I step away from the relationship or do I establish boundaries? No one is holding you hostage to having a conversation with someone at a family gathering. Before you know it, Easter will be here. Well, I am sure that if your mother-in-law is draining and she's always talking to you in a condescending way or belittling you or comparing herself to you, you're not forced to be seated right there staring at her. There's other people you can have a conversation with. Often in coaching, I will have to challenge my clients on this. Sometimes I find they actually somewhat thrive. They don't think they do, but I will find out through coaching that they actually kind of thrive on it. But they're always riled, and that's not healthy for us because that's stress and we feel it, right? Yeah. You can always have a discussion. You can always tell someone. Maybe you step back, and maybe if the family member approaches you and says, I feel like you're ignoring me, maybe that's your opportunity to say, well, I've decided that I'm really not comfortable with the way that you speak to me. You talk to me as if I'm a child, and I'm not. The other thing that you have to understand is once you're an adult, you're an equal. I know that's hard for some people to understand, and this comes up in coaching as well. I have clients that were so so ingrained in the thought process that parents always know what's best. And no matter what your parents say, you respect your parents, you respect your elders. While I completely agree, if someone's speaking to you in a way that is highly inappropriate, somewhat abusive, condescending, belittling, are you just going to listen? I mean, you have to ask yourself, you get to. But you're an adult now, you're an equal. So my kids are adults, they're an equal to me. While I respect them, they respect me. Okay, but they're equal, they're adults, they're in the same category as me. And we lean on each other back and forth. It's not that their father and I are superior to them, not at all. And we raise them to know that when you are an adult and you are living an adult life, that you do have a say, you do have a voice, you do have an opinion just as equal as mine, and it can be different. And often that's what trips people up, is they can't handle that someone else has a different opinion than they do. If that's you watching, you need to do some work, because why is that? Why do you need to have control? Or maybe someone in your life operates from that lens and they're draining, right? Yeah, the thing about draining people is they never see themselves as the problem. They never think they have work to do. They never think that they could be at fault. And that's what makes them draining, right? And sometimes it's not even worth our energy. I am very fortunate. I don't have a lot of these people in my life, but I would also say I'm not easily triggered or easily penetrated because I'm so comfortable in my skin. And the sooner you become more comfortable in your skin, the less you will be penetrated and triggered by others, guaranteed. You need help? Look into coaching. Love to help you. So I don't have a lot of this, but that doesn't mean I don't have any. In fact, I still have someone around, not a family member, that I find draining. But I have my reasons to keep this person in my life that I do have to see and be forced into conversation periodically. There is no escape. That's okay, because again, I have my reasons and the pros outweigh the cons. And how do I navigate it? Well, I have a little coaching session internally with myself. When I'm going to see this person, I remind myself that they are who they are. People will always show you who they are. So when they do, believe them, right? I talk about that in videos all the time as well as in coaching. When people show you who they are, believe them. If you ever catch yourself saying, I can't believe they did this, you need to do the work, because they show you all the time who they are. You just haven't believed them. That's why you're tripped up and triggered. But once you accept people for who they are, not that you're okay with it, but you know that they've shown you who they are and you believe that's who you're going to be. But I let this draining conversation or topics go in one ear and out the other. So I would say I'm half-heartedly listening, and maybe that could be rude, but that's my boundary. That's my boundary. I also have no problem telling this person when they'll ask me loaded questions so that they can challenge me. Often that's the case. Ask me a question and then try to antagonize me. Well, why this? Why that? Why do you think this way? Why do you believe that? Okay? Maybe it's on COVID. Maybe it's on politics. Maybe it's on something else. Why? And ask these loaded questions. You may have people in your life that do that to you. Watch out for loaded questions. I call it throwing the fishing line out into the water. Fishy, latchy on. You gonna latch onto that bait? It's okay to say, you know, that's not a topic I really care to discuss, but how's your family doing? That's often what I will do. Or, how was that vacation? So you have to watch for the bait, you have to watch for loaded questions, and no reply or no response is a reply or a response, okay? Hold your composure, don't be reactive, but you don't have to respond and reply to everything. When you start explaining yourself, that draining person that talks to you in a belittling and condescending way, they're gonna keep up at it. Maybe that's a reason why I don't really have any problems with the people in my life, because I think people don't see me as a target or vulnerable to not stand up and say, I'm just not comfortable talking about that. The few times I've had to say that to someone, I really don't feel like I've gotten a negative reply or response from them because of how I said it. But be careful explaining yourself. You don't need to explain to anyone why you aren't going to talk or engage in a particular topic. It's okay to say, I'm just not comfortable. Take the ownership. I'm just not comfortable talking about that. But anyway, how was your vacation? Right? Just shift that conversation. It's a great people skill. So there you go today. Draining people. Do we keep them? Do we let them go? I don't have that answer. You have to figure it out. In coaching, I never make that decision for my clients, ever. I always leave that decision, that ball in their court. I just help them to figure out what the pros and cons would be and how to set up healthy boundaries if they do choose to keep that person in their life. Because you can have thriving relationships. I have many thriving relationships where I've just established some boundaries. They're healthy boundaries. Okay, they're healthy. Don't be afraid of that. But if you can't do this and you need help, look into coaching with me or one of the other coaches of Hensel Coaching and Consulting. All the links will be in the description box below today's video. It's getting long-winded, but it's a great topic because so many people struggle with this. Also, are you draining? You know, we don't know if someone else would see us draining because, again, everyone operates from a different lens. Everyone has different sensitivities. I could be draining to you. I could be draining to anyone as well. Hi, honey. Am I draining?
When you give me all these chores when I'm literally 16 and I do everything, like I'm so busy, and I just come home, I got 3 hours of sleep, and now I have a whole chore list. So yes, Mom.
I guess I'm draining. There you go. We end with that, right? We don't know who we're going to be draining for. And that's okay. Learn to be happy with yourself. Work on yourself. Love yourself. Be the person you aspire to be. Stay in your lane. Stay in your box. Okay? All right. Great message. And I will see you right here back on YouTube very soon. Have a great week.